Next, we're going to have a look at working with users on the system. I'm currently on the home page and I'm going to go and click on admin in the top right hand corner. And if I select users over on the left hand side, we can see that there are two users already set up on my system, admin and training 6. Both are managers, as we can see over on the right hand side. And if I click on training 6 just to go into the record, we can see a few more options on the left hand side, things like access privileges, the details. Further down we've got login account details, and the login account details section is where you specify whether they're a manager or a consultant. A manager is like an administrator, so it means that the person can access the admin area of the database. A consultant can't. If you want to set somebody up as a consultant but just give them access to the back office of the database, you can still set them as a consultant, because back in the access privileges area there is an option to switch on to say allowed to view back office timesheets. And if you switch that on for any consultant, it means that when you close this down, that consultant from their home page cannot click on the admin button because they're not a manager, but they can click on My Preferences and then click on the back office button in here just to access the back office side of the database, but no other part of the admin area than that. So if I just go back into users again and training 6, if you want to change somebody's privilege or privilege set, so let's say we wanted to change training 6 from being a manager to a consultant, then I can't just literally select consultant in this drop down. What I have to do is delete the login for training 6 using this little trash can icon at the end. I'm just going to go back in and do it for admin instead, just to show you what it looks like. So delete the trash can at the end. And then literally, although it deletes the name, you don't need to put the name in again because the name is already at the top. Just click on the password, enter a new password or the same password that they were using before, it doesn't matter, and submit. And then it will allow you to select the privilege set that you want to set for that consultant. Click the Create Account button, and then that would have changed them from a manager to a consultant or vice versa. Again, remembering in the access privileges area, we can do things like allow the consultant to view the back office, but not the admin area of the database. And then also things like whether or not they're allowed to delete records. If it's on, it means they are. If it's off, it means no. As we can see, things like exporting data, all these options are off, and that's because admin has been set up as a consultant now, and that's the default. So no consultant is allowed to export any data from the system unless you switch any of these on. Also another option at the bottom, whether or not they're allowed to edit the exclude from mail merging field, which is against candidate records or contact records. Again, the default is that a consultant is not allowed to use that field, but you can switch that on if you need to. And then at the top, we can also see the viewing privileges. So whether or not they can view their branch records only, which means they'll only ever be able to see records for consultants that are in their particular branch. Their department records, so that's the next level down. And also whether or not they're allowed to view holiday pay data. So if you switch that on, it means they're not allowed to view holiday pay data for any candidates on the system. So quite a few privileges that you can switch on and off without having to actually give somebody manager or admin access. The other thing that you will need to see on a user, if a user leaves your company and you don't want them to be able to access or log into the database again, going back to the login account details section on the left, all we would do is delete that little login so that they cannot log into the database anymore. We wouldn't delete them as a consultant, we just literally delete their login. And then what might be worth doing is going to their details tab and just changing their status to inactive. And when we close it down underneath, they would have disappeared because we've actually got a filter here which shows us inactive and active users. The branches, you can assign users to branches. Back over on the left hand side, then we've got something called branches, and you can see that I've set up 2 branches, London and Newcastle. Newcastle is selected because it's got the blue circle next to it, and on the right I can see the users who are in that branch. London, when I select it, again, you can see the users that are in that branch. The 138 is showing now because that was admin. And that's how to work with users on HOS Pro.